told me when we met, you were talking about how you had an experience either going to church or leaving church, and it was raining one night,
Oh,
and it was very profound for you. It had an effect on me. I haven't forgotten that story. So I was wondering if you could tell us that story.
well, that was so funny. We were, my young friend Betsy Preston was driving me. I don't drive anymore, of course, and it was a winter night, I think in late February, and it was pouring down rain and dark and gloomy. And I don't even remember what the subject was of the service at the church, but it had nothing to do with homelessness.
Yes.
And so we were pulling out of the parking lot, and all of a sudden, it was one of those winter electrical storms, and there was a streak of lightning,
Oh my
and
gosh.
out of my mouth came, "Oh, Betsy, where do you think the homeless are sleeping tonight?"
Oh.
And as I say, it had nothing to do with the program topic at the church. So I just say that I got struck by lightning almost.
I think so. Well, and I think it is, once you start doing the work, I think you don't look at a rainstorm the same way, or where we're both speaking today, it's snowing, and you don't look at a snowstorm the same way. It's beautiful outside, but someone
Right,
is unfortunately out in the elements tonight and might freeze to death. It really does change your perspective of how you view weather. But yeah, that lightning, struck by lightning, to have this idea, I love that story of yours. Um,
yeah, it takes a lot to get me going.
that is a great story. If you're thinking about someone who's maybe, in their 40s or 50s, and they're kind of looking and hoping for purpose, and hearing that whisper, could you give them any advice on how you hear it, or how or what caused you to act on the ones that you felt called to?
I really don't know. I think it's such an individual thing, but I think you just have to be listening, probably. And a
Or
lot
struck by
of,
lightning?
right, because everybody doesn't get struck by lightning.
Well, I think everyone has whispers. I think only some people get hit by cosmic 2x4s and lightning. So
Yeah, well, that's right. I think there are many ways that people, uh, and you got to be listening. Here at 104, uh, I don't. Each day is a gift, and I feel like if you get up in the morning and say, uh, and in your prayer, pray that God will show you what He wants you to do. And if you try to really listen, and some days I do and some days I don't, uh, that's the only advice I have. Keep listening.
where do your plans stand right now? So you're still looking for a building to renovate, or some
Yes,
place to locate?
yes. We're trying to find a facility, of either a building downtown, and a lot of businesses say, well, we don't want it in our backyard either.
Yes.
But the interesting thing is, when we first started, we were talking to business people because they were complaining that homeless people were sleeping in their doorways at night, and they were complaining about what they left, and uh, how this was hurting their businesses. But on the other hand, when we're trying to find a place to get them from having to sleep in doorways, we run into a lot of obstacles. But you never give up.
Well, you never get up, and you are so right. I mean, there is only, the solution for homelessness, it is housing. So people who are concerned about those experiencing homelessness and sleeping in the doorways or outside, once you house someone, they're no longer homeless. So it is the solution that they're looking for, and a much better solution than allowing people to die on the streets. So
Absolutely. And I worry particularly now, uh, with the virus about it getting spread in the homeless population.
It is. They're very vulnerable. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's hard to shelter in place if you have no shelter.
Right.
What do you hope happens by your 105th birthday? What
Oh
what
my goodness.
what's your goal for your 105th?
The goal is continue with the Kingsport Housing Ministry and hopefully to have homeless people sheltered before my birthday. I was so in hopes we would have some people sheltered before this winter.
Yes.
And we've had, as I say, all the drawbacks with finding a facility that we could renovate and for a homeless shelter. But we keep hoping and working, and I'm sure we will.
Well, that would be a pretty great birthday present if they could have it open by your 105th. What's your birthday?
September the 10th.
Okay, well, I hope anyone listening who's in part of the your Kingsport area, September the 10th, that would be an awesome birthday present for your 105th, and maybe a great deadline to open the doors to something that gives people what they really need, which is a home.
Right. I loved your quote that if you give people a home, they're no longer homeless, they're just people.
Well, it's true. I think we sometimes think that homelessness um, is an adjective that describes somebody's character, but it's not. It just describes a temporary circumstance.
Right.
And so I think we too often leave people thinking that's who they are when it's just something that happened to them and it's not the end of their story. And something like you're trying to build in Kingsport is only the beginning of what their next chapter will be. So.
Right. And we realize that so many people are homeless, situationally homeless because of the house burning down or losing a job. But then there are others who are mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest challenge too, is not only the shelter, but also giving them the help that they need to overcome addictions or help with mental illness.
Right.
So it's a big challenge, but a great one.
I couldn't agree more. What is the wisdom, or what is it that you hope for your grandchildren, great grandchildren, and great great grandchildren? What is the advice that you give to them?
I don't think they really want me to give them any advice.
Well, that's good because I'm asking you. They can watch this many years later, Jo, and then when they're ready to hear it. But for right now, let's just say if you were going to give them some advice for the future, what would that advice be?
I would say stay open to opportunities, but do something that makes life easier for people and happier for people. Whether it's in your profession or, your spare time or whatever you do. And they have all done very well and have really been productive citizens, and I'm really proud of them.
Well, you have a great legacy, both in your family and also in the work that you've chosen to do, which certainly makes a difference, which certainly makes life easier and happier for people. 300 families, that is an amazing legacy with Habitat, and as well as the work that you're doing right now. It's just great. Thank you so much for doing this. I really, you cannot know. Like I said, I spoke at. Do you know about the Southminster, which is a place here in Charlotte? And I was speaking there to their lifelong learning group, and they were kind of bemoaning the fact that it's the pandemic, and there's not much you can do, and I'm too old, and darn it if I didn't bring up your picture on the screen and say, okay, let's talk about what's too old and living a life of purpose. And you were really so inspiring to people, and it makes them shake their head and realize, well, if I'm 70, I got 30 years to go. What am I going to do with it? Can't just play bridge and canasta for 30 years. So, I think you really are an inspiration, and I'm so glad we had this opportunity.
Well, I feel I guess one of my moving ideas or forces is you are blessed in order to be a blessing.
Yes. Love that.
Well, Kathy, it's lovely to visit with you, and thanks for taking this time.
Thank you, Jo. All right. Bye-bye.